Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakti Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nastapreshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. Text 2 and 3. You wrote 3. Okay. Haryakshaya dishat prachim Dumrakshe saya dakshinam Pratichim vrika samgyaya Turyam dravinashe vibhu. Translation. Maharaj Vichitasya offered the eastern part of the world to his brother Haryaksha, the southern part to Dumrakesha, the western part to Vrika, and the northern part to Dravina. So now, text 3. Antardhanagatim sakral Laptvan thandana samgita Apatyatrayam adatta Shikandinyam sushammatam Antardhanagatim sakral Laptvan tardana samgita Apatyatrayam adatta Sikhandinyam susammatam Antardhanagatim sakral Laptvan tardana samgita Apatyatrayam adatta Shikandinyam sasammatam
Antardhanagatim sakra
Antardhanagatim sakra Shikandinyam Susammatam.
Antardhanagatim chakra
Antardhanagatim chakra
Laptvantardhana samgitaha
Laptvantardhana samgitaha
Apatyadrayam adatta
Apatyatrayam adatta
Shikandinyam susammatam
Shikandinyam susammatam. Mataji.
Antardhanagatim chakra
Antardhanagatim chakra
Laptvantardhana samyataha
Laptvantardhana samgitaha
Aptyatrayam adatta
Apatyatrayam adatta
Shikandinyam susammatam
Shikandinyam susammatam. Antardhana of disappearance. Gatim, achievement. Sakrat, from King Indra. Laptva, getting. Antardhana, of the name. Samgnita, so nominated. Apatya, children. Trayam, three. Adatta, begot. Shikandinyam, in Shikandini, his wife. Susamatam, approved by everyone. Translation. Formerly, Maharaj Vichitasya pleased the king of heaven, Indra, and from him received the title Antardhana. His wife's name was Shikandini, and by her he begot 3 good sons. Please repeat after me. Formerly, Maharaj Vichitasya pleased the king of heaven, Indra, and from him received the title Antardhana. His wife's name was Shikandini, and by her he begot 3 good sons. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Vichitasva was known as Antardhana, which means disappearance. He received this title from Indra, and it refers to the time when Indra stole Maharaj Prithu's horse from the sacrificial arena. Indra was not visible to others when he was stealing the horse, but Maharaj Prithu's son Vichitasva could see him. Yet despite his knowing that Indra was taking away his father's horse, Vichitasva did not attack him. This indicates that Maharaj Vichitasva respected the right persons. Although Indra was stealing the horse from his father, Vichitasva knew perfectly well that Indra was not an ordinary thief. Since Indra was a great and powerful demigod and servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vichitasya purposefully excused him due to sentiment only. Even though Indra was acting wrongly. Thus Indra became very pleased with Vichitasya at that time. The demigods have the great mystic power of being able to appear and disappear according to their will. And since Indra was very pleased with Vichitasva, he bestowed this mystic power upon him. Thus, Vichitasya became known as Antardhana. Antardhana gatim sakral laptvantardhana samgita apatyatrayam adatta sikandinyam susammatam. Formerly, Maharaj Vichitasya pleased the king of heaven Indra, and from him received the title Antardan. His wife's name was Shikandini, and by her he begot 3 good sons. Om Jnana Timbrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are reading very interesting encounters referring to King Indra. King Indra is, as described in Purport by Prabhupada, a very powerful demigod. He is actually the king of the demigods. In previous chapter, he was even addressed as Bhagavan Indra. Indra is very powerful, naturally, as being the king of heaven, and he has many demigods who are under him. Still, it has been described in various sections of the Vedic scriptures that he is very good in stealing and hiding. There is also that incidents where he actually used his mystic power in order to, Prabhupada used the word in the later purports, where he used to rape the wife of Gautama Muni, Ahalya. But in that regard, as was pointed out here by Srila Prabhupada, that activity being abominable, actually King Indra was not degraded through that incident. And Prabhupada used the quote from Srimad Bhagavad Gita that even if a devotee is engaged in an abominable activity, still he should be considered as being a devotee, because it is accidental downfall. So that incident which is related here refers to the sacrifice of Prithu Maharaj, Vichitasya's father. King Prithu performed a sacrifice for the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same sacrifice Indra also performed, and he was getting afraid that Prithu will overrule him. So he decided to steal one ingredient of the sacrifice in order that Prithu Maharaj was not able to complete the full sacrifice. Another name of King Indra is Shatakratu, means the performer of 100 sacrifices. So he used his mystical power to disguise himself in the robe of sannyasi, mendicant. In that way, he came to the sacrifice and took away the horse. But this was detected by Atri, a sage, and was indicated to Vichitasa that is actually Lord Indra wanting to disturb the sacrifice. So Vichitasa got alert and immediately chased King Indra in the disguise of a sannyasi dress. And he aimed at him with the arrow, so as soon as Indra noticed that, he let the horse loose and disappeared. At that time, actually, it is described that Vichitasa shouted, "Wait, wait, tishta, tishta." And Prabhupada makes a comment that that is how a Kshatriya calls his opponent in the battlefield. He also makes the remark that for a Kshatriya to flee the battle is not very honorable. And that's why actually Vichitasa called him to tishta tishta, to wait in order to engage in battle with him. Anyway, he disappeared. But just in order, after some time, to return once again and try to steal. And this time he appeared, as it is described, with a stick with a skull on top, and again in a dress of a mendicant. Prabhupada makes the point, even Bhagavatam itself makes the point, that this is actually the start of introducing cheating capacity by showing off in a dress of a sannyasi, of a mendicant, but actually the intention is to steal away the property of a sacrifice. That is cheating propensity. So, in one way it's very interesting, and actually Prabhupada makes this point in his purport very elaborately, that these qualities are actually to be watched very carefully. And he makes this point especially for the attention of the readers, so that means also for our attention. Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, the king of heaven, is a great devotee, but as we all know, he is not a pure devotee. Prabhupada also makes that point, he is a conditioned living entity still, being afflicted with the 4 shortcomings of a conditioned living entities. One of it is the tendency to cheat. So, And he still has his own desires. He wants to enjoy, which is also the driving force why he engages in these, at least from our point, abominable acts of stealing away a horse or raping a halya. So, and Prabhupada makes that point, due to that desire to enjoy, that is also the source of his enviousness. And I think this is a very relevant point for us devotees to notice. The biggest enemy or the root cause of our existence in the material world is actually enviousness. We are envious of Krishna. We wanted to be Krishna. That's why we came to this material world. And here very vividly we can see what will be the effect and to what extent the individual actually will go in order to meet his goals. So Indra was afraid that by performing the sacrifice, Prithu Maharaj will become more powerful than him. And that is actually the sign of enviousness. An envious person, envy comes, when we get the impression that somebody else will overshadow, we say that, overshadow us. So, and this is not something which is only seen, so-called, by the karmis, by the outside. Here we actually see it, like the Srimad Bhagavan gives that example. Even such an elevated personality like Lord Indra, the king of heaven, is afflicted by envious. So what to speak of ourselves? So we in our spiritual endeavor, spiritual journey, may also appear these kinds of sentiments and feelings. So when these feelings come, we always should try to curb them, because otherwise we will have to take the reaction. And we can't compare ourselves to Lord Indra. Lord Indra maybe has the potency, the capacity to, after realizing, be reinstated in his devotional position. But that may not be the fact with us, or we just should be careful not to be swept away by these tendencies. Another very interesting point is, as we heard, Indra tried to steal away the horse once when he was charged by Chitthitasva. He actually let loose, but immediately tried again in a different form, but with the same intention. And then again, Vichitasa was told by Atri Muni that, look, he came again and tried it. So once again, Vichitasa charged. But as it is said in the purport, he didn't really go for it due to the respect he had for Indra, the king of heaven. And there we also can see the qualities of a saintly person. A saintly person regards another individual, even if he's engaged in an abominable activity, but due to his status, he respects. He doesn't act on it. Prabhupada makes that point here due to his powerful position as Lord, being, the King of Heaven. But there is also another consideration, he came in the garb of a sannyasi. So it was, that also can be put in consideration due to the respect of the garb of a sannyasi, meaning the social status of a sannyasi. He didn't want to pursue it to the end. So we can see there is a display of behavior which is a very good example to follow for us devotees. Then another consideration, seeing that Vichittasa didn't really engage, Atri Muni approached Prithu Maharaj himself and made him aware, that King Indra is obstructing the completion of his sacrifice. And more importantly, that King Indra is actually introducing this cheating propensity. And it is said that Prithu Prabhu, being the exemplary monarch, it's the duty of a king or a monarch to protect his subjects for being misled or swept away by these kind of propensities. We also have to see that it is said that Yad Yad Arachi Shrestas Tatat Evatara Janaha, that whatever a great man does, others will follow. And Prabhupada makes the point, especially in this case, this was very attractive for people in general to follow. Because whoever is in the material world has the tendency, to try to enjoy. So in order to protect the subjects from this tendency, Prithu Maharaj was actually immediately taking action, and he himself wanted to, chase Lord Indra. But at that time, Lord Brahma intervened, came to the scene. So we can see it's very intricate. But I think it's very important for us devotees to understand these subtle details. Lord Brahma came and intervened and made the point that better to let in, better to abstain from the desire to complete the sacrifice and let it go, because Brahma's point was, if Prithu Maharaj does that, Indra will be inspired to carry on, introduce other cheating propensities. It's very interesting to see that. And then Prabhupada makes a very interesting point, or a very valid point in the purport. He says that a devotee meets in his devotional service at times some reversal, but he shouldn't act on these reversals too much, meaning to try to reinstate or correct these reversals, because by doing that he actually will be confronted with the anxiety of material existence. Is very interesting. And the point is that he should have full faith that this is due to providence. So that's why better not to engage, not to put too much energy trying to rectify the reversal, rather accept it as being providence. And naturally we can understand that that's what Krishna also tells us in Bhagavad Gita. Finally, the basis to it is the understanding who is the doer and who is not the doer. And finally, that Krishna is Upadrasta Anumantacha. He is the one who actually oversees everything and who permits all actions which are happening. So I found it a very relevant point in this respect to bring that up. So we can see that the different narrations which we find in Srimad Bhagavatam finally are always leading us to the ultimate goal in life. And these narrations, they have many, many detailed aspects. Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, Jai Shri Govinda. In one way, according to the understanding from the listeners, it actually deals with different aspects of devotional life. So this is very important for us to understand. And the more we actually delve into reading Srimad Bhagavatam in this understanding, in this consciousness, the more we actually will benefit. As it has been said, there is no difference between Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Srimad Bhagavatam. And as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unlimited, Srimad Bhagavatam is also unlimited. So the more we delve into the nectar, the more we actually will get out of it. Should I carry on? Another aspect is the understanding that finally the only process which will elevate the individual is bhakti. It's very easy, we hear that all the time. Yes, it's just bhakti which will lead us to the ultimate goal. But what is actually bhakti? If it would be that easy, then how come such elevated living entities like Indra, even Brahma, what to speak of other demigods, even Lord Shiva sometimes, get bewildered. So that actually shows us that this is a very, very special position, being engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as it also has been described, devotional service, bhakti, cannot be achieved by our own endeavor. It is actually achieved by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only if He wants us, we will be able to be engaged in devotional service. It also has been explained why that is, because once being situated on the platform of pure devotional service, Krishna actually sells himself out to the devotees, to the devotee. That means that he feels obliged to serve the devotee. Is not more the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is calling the shots, so to say, but it is an exchange between the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there we can see how precious devotional service is, and how seldom pure devotion really is. But we shouldn't be too much bothered or too worried. Sometimes we hear, or we may question ourselves, is there any hope for me? Having so many, especially at these precious times where we really go deep into ourselves and suddenly we detect, oops, there's still some shortcomings on our side and we're not really, if we're honest with ourselves, we're not really properly situated. Then we may question, and that question is actually, it's a good sign, because it is the start of realizing how incapable we actually are if we only depend upon our capacity. And that may sometimes make us feel sad or desperate whether we will be able to achieve the ultimate goal of life. But then Srila Prabhupada points out that just follow the process, and by following the process to our best capacity, it's just a question of time. One time Prabhupada made that point in a class. He said that all of you here are pure devotees. So the audience was quite baffled, and many devotees questioned, and they actually asked Prabhupada, but how come, how is it, that this bhakta who just joined the other day, he's a pure devotee? Then Prabhupada made the point, like as there is a green mango and a ripe mango. He says that the green mango maybe not yet be ripe, but if he stays in the tree, it's just a question of time till he becomes ripe. So in a similar way, if we as devotees just stick to the process, stay in ISKCON, never ever leave ISKCON, no matter what happens, then it's just a question of time till we actually reach our goal. And if we go back and think, it is actually not us who have the capacity to become perfect. It is ultimately Krishna's mercy upon us. So, and if Krishna's dearmost servant, who was sent by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if Srila Prabhupada tells, so why we should doubt? Because as it also has been said in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said to Arjuna, you declare boldly that my devotee never will perish. So why Krishna said that? Who knows?
Because Krishna may break his promise, but he will always safeguard the promise of his devotee.
Very good. So if we put that understanding on this very incident, or this situation, so if Prabhupada gives us the guarantee, so what does it mean? It must be true. So we should put all our faith in this statement, and we should put all our energy and try to stick to that principle, try to follow the process which Prabhupada so beautiful has set up. And in that way it will be just a question of time. Maybe not this life, but one lifetime. As it is also said, Janmani Janmaneshware Bhavata Bhaktiya Haitaki. Our desire should be not only this life, but life after life. We want to be engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that means it doesn't really matter how many times we come and take birth. But as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his song, praying to Krishna, please let me take birth in a family of Vaishnavas. Please let me take birth in a place where the holy name is sung. Doesn't matter even in what kind of living form. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any comments? Any questions? Yes.
Thank you very much for the lecture. You mentioned just before that regarding reversal, that one should not act upon our reversal, and better not to put effort to resist them, and instead we should accept them. So can you talk more about that and what comes after acceptance? Because if the desire is there or the envy is there and the intensity of it is still there in our mind, okay, we don't resist it, we don't judge it, we don't beat ourselves because we have it. We recognize its providence or automatic sankaras in the mind, and we accept it, and then what comes? So how do we purify it? How do we deal with it? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Naturally, it's a question of consciousness. In order to be able to accept rehearsals or different other happenings as being providence, it actually means, or that we're fully aware that we're not this body. Meaning that our consciousness is quite purified. So if you're not on that level, actually it won't be able to accept the fact. And as we all experience, definitely surely experienced in our lives, sometimes there are certain incidents which we can't really accept, which we can't come to terms to it. In that way, it is always the advice, to be authentic, to be true to ourselves, So, if we act artificially, trying to be on a certain plane, but we are not on that plane, it's a question of time till we so we should be aware where we stand and act according to that. But always keep in mind what is the highest understanding. Prabhupada always makes the point, if we realize that we are not this body, so whatever happens to this body doesn't really affect us. He made that specific point, whether there is glorification or whether there is insult. If we realize that we are not this body, so we're not affected. Because you're insulting this body, but I'm not this body. Once again, this is a very high, lofty position, but that should be the goal, and accordingly. And the most important point I would say is, it doesn't matter where we stand, if we have full faith in Krishna, Krishna will help. You see, if we encounter a situation, where we actually understand I shouldn't react, but due to our conditioning, we can't really stop reacting in a certain way, then at least try to pray to Krishna to help. And Krishna will help. Is that okay? Hare Krishna. Yes.
Actually, just on this topic, I was thinking, how about the reverse of this one? When we should act and we don't act, in terms of, because here it was mentioned, if something is very challenges is coming, then we tolerate, reverse, we tolerate it. But for example, in Srila Prabhupada's case in Bombay, he was cheated. The man really tried to cheat Srila Prabhupada. So one could say, well, he could just tolerate it, it's an insult, but he acted like fire. So could you just explore this one?
Yeah, maybe I can get a little more technical. Like, we actually only can tolerate naturally if we're situated in a mode of goodness. Because right, if we're too much affected by passion and ignorance, you can't help yourself. That's why if a kshatriya is insulted, he will take out his sword and cut. Because he can't help it. So, and what does it mean, mode of goodness? Mode of goodness means to see the things as they are in the light. And I would say in that way, that is actually exactly the question which comes now, when you meet the rehearsal. Oh, is this rehearsal now for me a stepping stone? Or is it a rehearsal, which is obstructing the pushing forward of the Krishna consciousness movement? So, you understand what I mean? Like for Prabhupada it is clear, he could understand in that situation, that this is not a rehearsal to be, a reversal to be accepted, because this is actually a demoniac try to stop, the Krishna consciousness movement, the preaching. So naturally, no devotee will accept that. Reversal in his own, that's something, a devotee is more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. But if it's something against his Lord and Master, and the desire of his Lord and Master, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, pushing on forward the movement, he would go stand up and fight. So that's why, then that will be the question when we meet that. Or that may come up, how should I react now? And that's why I said that knowledge will come, the more purified we come, the more we will see. Isn't it? Because being situated in goodness, actually means to be able to communicate with the Super Soul. So Super Soul will come. And that is actually, in simple words also, like the conditioned state means that we are listening to our mind. And the liberated state is that we only will do what Krishna wants, what the Super Soul tells us. Thank you. Hare Krishna.